right, well, welcome to the Secret Life of Entrepreneurs, live on location at Queen City Collective, a co-working and community gathering space. I'm talking with a local business owner who's making a difference here in Saskatchewan. Stay tuned to learn his secrets, what makes him tick, what keeps him going, and what has made him successful with his business. You're listening to your host, Barb McGrath, guru and founder of Get Found on Google program. We just lost our guest. We'll try that again. Oh, I said, there we go. There we go, and we have him back. Okay, so I said the word Google, and my phone tried to go to Google.
They're always listening.
I know, they're always listening. Exactly. All right, let's get back at it. So before we do get started today, and before I introduce our guest, I want to encourage everyone to stay until the very end of the show today, because at the end, we have a very tasty bonus for you. So be sure to stay tuned right until the end. So our guest today is Jeff Kinash, and he's from Peregrine Farms down in Wishart. So he's going to talk with us about developing a thriving farm-to-table business. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks, Barb.
Thank you very much for being here. So let's start it off. Tell us a little bit about Peregrine Farms.
Well, it's a pasture-based farm just outside of Wishart. It's off-grid. I've got no power. It's just making it work. I raise honeybees and pasture-raised chickens, and I've got about a half to acre size market garden on the farm. And I spend my summers out there, living out of a trailer, and just trying to produce food in a loving way and
in a healthy way.
And in a healthy way, of course. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So let's just take a step back there. I suspect that some of our viewers don't know where Wishart is. Yeah. There's a tongue twister for you. Where is it?
South of Wynyard, about an hour north of Fort Qu'Appelle. Yeah, there's 50 people. It's on an island of grid roads, as a matter of fact. So you're forgiven if you don't know where it is.
Excellent, thank you. I am one of those.
Yeah.
Okay, and how did you end up there?
I was living in BC, Whistler area for through the 90s, and then when my wife and I, when she got pregnant, we moved back to Saskatchewan so she'd be around her family. I didn't want to live in the city, and if you're going to live in a small town in Saskatchewan somewhere, it's probably best to live someplace where the name is recognized, or people know you. So we moved to where both her grandparents grew up, or her dad grew up, and stuff like that. So
Saskatchewan's home for her, even though you met it in BC as well.
Yeah, I grew up in Saskatoon. So Saskatchewan was home for both of us, so it made sense to raise a family back here. And so then there's a quarter section on the farm, or there's a quarter section in her family that's been in the family since 1882. I think it's the oldest family farm in the RM, and so I was able to use that to pursue my farming dreams. And but we live in Wishart, just a little town.
Okay.
Near the farm.
So was farming always your dream?
No, I didn't really clue into that until the mid 90s. I hitchhiked down to Honduras one winter after tree planting and pruning, and I hooked up with these agricultural people on the coast of Honduras and just fell in love with it, and saw what a wonderful life these people had. They were quite poor, but you know,
the quality of life.
Yeah, they had a good quality of life. Yeah, they were smiling and they were doing things all the time. And, and I just thought, you know, a few little technical advantage or improvements, and a farm in Saskatchewan, a small farm in Saskatchewan would be a nice way to live. So that was where I got my inspiration from.
Okay.
And then I moved back to BC, or went back home, or back to BC after traveling, and sought out a little farm and farmed there for 4 years before.
Oh, you were farming out in BC too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, same type of farm?
Yeah, just market garden, orchard, laying hens, that kind of thing. Small scale again, but but it got me started.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It gave you the experience and it gave you a taste for it, obviously, because you continued.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So just before we got started today, I did ask you a little bit about the name of your farm, Peregrine Farms. Where does that come from?
Well, like I mentioned, the farm's been in the family since 1882. It was settled by Charles Perry, and Peregrine is sort of the root word of Perry, so it's just kind of a nod to the family history. And I think another meaning of Peregrine is nomadic. I both like to travel, as we did back in the day, and so that was how we came up with that.
Okay, and it just kind of stuck.
Yeah,
how old are your kids now? You talked about when you and your wife first started your family.
Yeah, this year they'll be 15, 17, and 20.
Oh, okay. So how much are they able to help?
Well, they used to help me butcher chickens, and so yeah, that was what they did to help.
Okay.
And last year when I went a lot bigger, they promptly retired. They heard the numbers I was going at, and they didn't want to do that. So they felt, I mean, they still help me. It's, it's some chores or filling in, or if I'm gone, opening and closing the greenhouse and all that kind of thing. They help me with, but it's mostly a one-person show. And, but I mean, it's evolving, right? My oldest now, she's probably going to start editing some videos for me for the website and doing stuff because that's her interest. And, so yeah, they're involved in one way or another.
One way or the other. Yeah. And it's nice to have that techie support, hey?
Oh, it sure is, yeah.
Jeff and I have had a few conversations around technology, and it either works or it doesn't work. No two ways about it.
That's right. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the farming operation. We know where you are, but how are you making a livelihood out of it?
Okay. I'm just starting to try and make a livelihood out of it. I've been a massage therapist for the last 16 years, and so I've been able to kind of do both. Or I guess my massage career sort of supported the family, and then I've kind of sunk money into the farm, trying to just slowly build it up all these years. And then finally, I start to feel my thumbs go a little bit. I'm just kind of ready to move on from my therapy career and jump into farming full time. So so last year I tried doing that, and almost worked, didn't quite, but yeah, almost. So this year I just decided to quit massage a couple weeks ago. So the next week is my last week, and then I'm just gonna farm full time.
Go full time.
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody wants to check out the produce and the goods that you have, where do they find all of your product?
I've been going to the Regina Farmers Market. That's been since December, and we're now moving outside next week, so that'll be in Victoria Park. And then I'm trying to also use website and online sales. Been kind of struggling with that, trying to learn the ropes of the whole online marketing thing. I finally broke down and got some help from some people. So as of this week and moving forward, my marketing and all, just everything is going to fall into place, and I can just write blogs and write information and give people value and not have to worry about how to get it out there.
How the message gets out
there.
That
part is just, it's been overwhelming for me in the last few months trying to figure that out. So I'm more than happy to offload that onto someone else.
Okay. And so on that note, I'm just going to quickly share again that for anyone who does tune in between now and July 15th, Jeff has agreed to share a bit of a bonus at the end of the show today. So be sure to stay tuned right to the very end when we'll share some details around that. But certainly, if you like something that's tasty, it'll be great to stay tuned in and learn a little bit more about that offer. So Jeff, what do you actually sell?
I sell pasture-raised chickens, honey, and produce.
Okay. Yeah. And I think you and I had this conversation before too, but there's a lot of misconception out there about organic chicken, pasture-raised chicken, and then what you might find typically in the grocery store. And in fact, do I remember correctly that there's no such thing really as an organic chicken, because organic is a plant where pasture-raised is how an animal is fed? Or do I have that all messed up?
Well, yeah, you can still get an organic chicken, and the basis of that would be the chicken's being fed organic grains. Yeah, the ones that you get in the grocery store, probably 100% are raised in barn situations. So so they kind of an industrial situation, except they're being
Right.
fed organic grains instead of whatever cheap protein that industrial system would use.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically what I'm doing is raising all my birds on pasture. So I've got them in.
So that means they roam freely
they roam
within a space.
Freely within a space. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. There's a couple different ways of doing that, but yeah, as long as the birds are outdoors and on fresh pasture, daily or regularly, then that would qualify as pasture raised.
Okay.
You'll sometimes get situations where an industrial system might open the back doors of the barn and let them run out a little bit, but still, the whole idea is to get chickens eating. You still feed them grain, of course, so I have fresh roll, wheat and peas for them daily, but they still want a percentage, or you want to get a percentage of plants into their system, because that's where they get high quality minerals, and also it makes a difference in taste and health of the bird. So that's the idea behind that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so for the consumer, if I was to look at the pricing spectrum, I can taste a lot of difference between having had one of your birds and then, traditionally buying from the grocery store. And I shared this story with Jeff when we first met, but our family, we have a whole roaster chicken on a fairly regular basis. And we got out of that habit. I don't know why, but we really got out of the habit for a while. And so when Jeff and I first chatted, I went and met him at the farmer's market and, of course, bought a bird. And when we ate it, which we ate for the next week because we bought a nice big one, but the taste, like it has taste again, right? It's not protein cardboard. It tastes like chicken again, and it's moist. And it sounds crazy for someone who has never tried it. It's like, well, chicken's chicken. But if you haven't tried a pasture-raised chicken and you don't know the difference, right? Like it's really hard to explain to someone.
No, there's a huge flavor and texture differences between the two. And it's just because the bird is eating plants. You know, in any kind of industrial barn system, they are eating, dried, processed, heated, feed. So sometimes, questionable origin. So
exactly.
I guess the saying is you are what you eat. It's also you are what you eat eats, right? So if you're eating any kind of animal product, you really got to look and see what that animal is eating in order to, quantify its health and what it's doing for you in a health perspective. So
exactly. So tell us about a typical day for you. What do you do? What do you need to do? You got to feed the birds. You got to tend to the kids that are still at home. What does a day look like for Jeff?
It's always changing because I live very seasonally, but I guess right now I'm mostly focused on my greenhouse. I don't have chickens at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm just, raising starts in the greenhouse and just getting ready to move outdoors. When I have chicks, especially when you have chicks, like 1 day old to 2 weeks old or whatever, it's pretty intensive. You really got to monitor what they're doing and how they're doing. I raise my birds off grid, which is anyone who raised chickens is just going to be scratching their head at this one because you traditionally use a heat source, heat lamp of some kind. I didn't have that option because the farm doesn't have power. So I had to really dig deep and find a way to be able to do that. And so I went on a limb last year and I found a system from Korea that seemed they've been doing it there. So I just tried it, right? And it worked out really well. It turned out, I was very happy with the results, good, happy, and healthy birds out of that. And so but it takes some very intensive management and observation at first, right, to see how they're doing. So I'm doing that, and then at the same time trying to check on my bees and manage the bees, planting garden. Last year I was building infrastructure like crazy because I mentioned I stepped up my
you were stepping up the game.
So hopefully this year won't be as frantic because I have a lot of the infrastructure in place, but there's always improvements to make and always infrastructure to work on all that stuff, right? I mean, it takes forever to build up a farm to where you want it and to where it can kind of run itself, so to speak, at least infrastructure wise. So, so yeah, so I'll just, be busy. The chicks are 4 weeks or so, and rolling grain every morning, loading it by hand. I pail it into I pail it into a trailer that's attached to my quad, and then I drive my quad out to where the chickens are on pasture, and then I pail it into their feed pails, and get them. Chickens, then I will move on to my garden and work with that, or depending on the weather, what needs to be done with the bees, I'll work on that. So I'll pretty much work on the farm all day long, and then at some point I'll have to go home and see my kids and spend some family time.
And work on the family time.
Maybe pick up a meal, and then I spend my nights on the farm again as well. So
nice. What's the cycle for chicks? When will you have chicks?
Because I'm brooding mostly outdoors or not in an insulated barn or something like that, I don't try and start too early. So middle of May is when I'll start with my chicks this year.
Okay.
And then I'll do cycles. So I'll raise a batch, and then 3 weeks later I'll raise another batch. 3 weeks later I'll raise another batch. Depending on my pre-sales and how things go, I might raise one more batch. Moving into July. So, and what's the time frame from the time you have your first batch of chicks until those chicks actually become available for sale as a? Down to 11 weeks. Oh, really? It's that quick? It's a great turnover. Oh, I didn't realize that. I was expecting you to say, a year. I didn't realize. Oh, okay. No, I do not want to be on the farm in the wintertime. Like I said, no power, no house, no. Got it. Yeah, it's just land. So you don't live on the farm then? No, I live in a trailer on the farm in the winter, or in the summer. In the summer? And then in the wintertime, where are you? The farm shuts down and I live in Wishart. Oh, and you have power in Wishart. Oh, yeah. I've got all that in Wishart. Got it. Yeah. Okay. And deep freezes and all those sort of things. Yes, and so that's where storage is. And yes. Yeah. Got it. Okay. See, this is making a little bit more sense. I'm like, wow, the whole family, no power. Ooh. No. Oh, no. Okay. That makes a heck of a lot more sense. Yeah. So pasture raised meat might be a chicken, might be a cow, might be whatever. Pasture raised food has become much more popular in the last number of years. We've seen, you go into a normal grocery store and, they have a bird or they have meat that they claim was pasture raised, that they claim is organic. Where is this coming from, and where do you think it's going to go as an industry? Oh, the health food industry is only getting better and better, and it's only going to grow more and more. Yeah. People are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and and every day people figure out that, hey, how you take care of yourself is directly related to how you feel. That's just a fact. Yeah. And but not everyone's ready to live up to that fact. But every day people are, and so as they realize that they need to take care of themselves, then they start turning towards organic foods and vegetables and live foods and pastured animals and all that kind of thing. So it's super important, and it's only got one way to go, and that's up. It's not a fad. It's it's kind of hid from the public, but we're in the middle of a chronic health epidemic. If you want to look at the stats, the biggest one is something like 4% of adults had chronic diseases at the end, in the late 60s, let's say 50 years ago. And now it's approaching half of children have a chronic illness. And that's just ridiculous. So it is. Yeah. There's all kinds of things, whether you go from the autism stats to all the brain dysfunction stats. Just every statistic for illness is on the rise, and grossly on the rise. So we don't often talk about it, but it's there, and the only way really out of it is to take care of ourselves. Yes, exactly. And a different kind of take care of ourselves, right? It's not about a lot of people, when you think about self-care, especially directed towards women, self-care has become pampering yourself versus taking care of yourself holistically, right? Sleeping well,
family time, how you eat, right? The things you put in and on your body.
Absolutely.
Right? They absolutely make a huge difference.
And there's been so much science just in the last 20 years, even on I mean, we've mapped the human genome, right, in the late 90s to the early 2000s, and the whole genetic determinism theory where you are what your genes are, and that's it, and you're stuck with them, that's been thrown out the window now. We know that our genes are reacting to their environment. We know that our guts, gut health is such a big thing these days, and people don't quite understand what's going on. But I mean, the biology in our stomach is pretty much directly responsible for how we feel, how all our systems run. That is the center of our health, really is. And so if you can maintain a healthy microbiome, the biology in our guts and all that stuff, if you can maintain that, then your body's going to respond very positively.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can achieve very good health.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have to really look at, you have to go deep as to what we eat and what we put in our bodies, and how our minds affect our guts, and just like you said, the holistic thing, because anything that's got a preservative in it, for example, a preservative is an antimicrobial agent. So any antimicrobial agent that you're putting into your body is killing bacteria, right? I mean, just
your body's bacteria and wherever it's come from.
Your body's bacteria, exactly. And that's what we really need to focus on, is not killing the bacteria in our guts, because that's what's responsible for every facet of our body's function, right? Our being, yeah. So, it's community down there, and I mean, the way I kind of liken it is, as a community, let's just look at, say, Regina. You pull out your phone book, right? And every time you ingest something that's a toxin of some kind, well, tear a page out of the yellow pages, right? Because you're destroying some sort of function in your body when you destroy bacteria. So you pull out enough pages and you're going to start to lose services, right? And when you start losing services, your city starts to not be so thriving. It starts to deteriorate and things like that. So I guess that's one way to think about it.
No, actually, that's a really good analogy. That's an analogy I hadn't heard before, but that's a fantastic analogy. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I had another guest on the show back in January, Kirsten from Kirsten's Cultures.
Okay.
And she brews kombucha and kefir and all those sorts of things. And I shared with her that, again, our family, there's obviously a period of time where we were really conscious of our health. And again, I don't know how it slipped, so I know what I'll be thinking about this afternoon. But we were making kefir at home. And we were going through a liter of homemade kefir on a daily basis. So there's 4 of us in the house, and the kids would have some, and I would have some, and my husband. But we were going through tons. And I think my husband and I both lost some weight. The cravings for sugar and pop, gone, absolutely gone, right? But as you know, making kefir can be a pretty labor-intensive process. And so the last time I made a batch, I put them into the fridge, kind of to rest them for a while, just because it had become intensive. And I think they're probably well rested and maybe even in the grave at this point.
You can always get more, but that brings up something else I'd like to share with you. That's really interesting. Is my youngest daughter, she's in 4-H, and so she did a 4-H science fair project. And what she did was she compared the bacterial counts of pasteurized sauerkraut, organic, non-pasteurized sauerkraut, and she made her own sauerkraut and compared that. So I've got a soil microscope at home, just to look at soil bacteria and geeky things like that. And so she used my microscope, and she made slides and looked at it all, and found that the homemade bacteria there was more bacteria in the homemade than there was in the organic, and more than the one that was in the pasteurized one. So she then went to National 4-H Science Fair in Nova Scotia, and so she won that. And after she won that, she got a mentor, and this mentor suggested to her that she get some professional testing. Because with a microscope, even with a 400 times microscope, you only can see the biggest of bacteria. You can't, and it's not super accurate, right? So she had to estimate, and there's a lot of little bacteria in a microscope screen. So, anyway, so she took her samples to, what's it called? Intertech, I think. It's a company in Saskatoon, or it's a lab in Saskatoon that does a lot of food testing and things like that. So, so they looked at the lactobacteria counts of her 3 samples.
Okay.
And so it was pretty amazing. She was so excited when she got the results back, because the pasteurized sauerkraut that you get from the grocery store had 1,100 lactobacillus in it.
Okay. That's nothing.
That seems nothing, especially when you hear that the organic, non-pasteurized commercial variety that she picked up at the grocery store had 310,000. So 1,100 to 310,000. Right. Her homemade one, 11 million. So 11 million. Yeah. So it was 10,000 times better than the pasteurized sauerkraut that you get in the grocery store. So that's just one example of how homemade is so important,
much
right?
better. Yeah.
So if you're making the effort to do to make kefir at home, good thing, because I'm sure it translates into
way better than So if she's making something like that at home, like has she gone to the whatever you don't grow, she goes to the grocery store, she fills in the blanks with whatever kind of produce you guys buy, whether it's organic or not. So she's still buying the typical produce that we would have available for sauerkraut, right? And then making it in the home environment where we don't have to heat it and bottle it and airtight pack it. And wow. Yeah. What a difference.
Yeah.
That's huge. All right. Well, we are nearly out of time. I'd like you to be able to wrap up, Jeff, and tell us one more time, how can we find you? Where will you be with your product? And, just quickly tell us all of that. And then I will share the news on the bonus.
Okay. Well, you can find me at Regina's
Farmers Market as beginning Saturday outdoors.
Yeah, that's correct. I do have a website, peregrinefarm.ca.
Okay.
A little bit under construction right now, but that's a good way to find me, and signing up is a really good way to keep in touch and know more about what I'm doing. I'm really looking forward to adding value for my customers. From this moment forward, really, I'm really working on trying to just inspire people to eat better, give them information on how to know more about whole foods, right? Natural farm fresh foods and stuff like that, and how it affects you. And then you can also follow me on Instagram is my favorite. Facebook, I just forward things from Instagram to Facebook. So you can follow me on Facebook if you like. But yeah, Instagram is my easy go-to.
Okay, and I think on Instagram you're Peregrine Farm SK.
Peregrine Farm SK. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. And I think that's what it is on Facebook too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. So let's get into the bonus. For anyone who takes the time to listen to our episode today, between now, May 1st, and July 15th of 2019, Jeff has offered 2 things for us. One thing. We changed that up, didn't we? Okay. So what I need you to do is send a message to the Above the Fold Facebook page, and just shoot me your email address so that we can take the conversation off Messenger. The first person who sends me a message today, first five, see, it all keeps changing. The first 5 people who send me a message will get 50% off their purchase with Jeff from the Regina's Farmers Market. And I suspect that if more than those email me, we'll hear from Jeff. Will probably sweeten the pot for a few others as well. So first 5 people, send me your email address just so I can pass it on to Jeff, and he will send you a note for 50% off your first purchase. So there is your tasty bonus. And I want to share what Jeff brought for me today, a little jar of honey. I haven't opened it yet because I know if I do, I'll just sit here with a spoon eating it.
I might drop a spoon in there too.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So we are going to wrap up, and I'd like to give a shout out to Queen City Collective, the place in our community for entrepreneurs to gather, find community, and grow their business. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, look at them online, queencitycollective.ca, or you can just stop in for a visit. They're over on Broad Street. I'd like to thank you, Jeff, from Peregrine Farms, for joining us today. that whole farm to table, that's a very interesting concept, I think, to so many people. And hearing about local businesses that are growing and thriving and giving back to the community, to me, that's something that's so important. And I know I'll go home, like I said, and figure out, well, how did we get out of this habit? Because we really need to get back into it.
Back online here, Barb.
Exactly. Jeff has a subscription program. Let me just give him a little shout out. So he has a subscription program. So let's say, for example, if you want a whole roaster chicken or a half roaster chicken, you can actually subscribe and get a chicken. Is it weekly, monthly?
Yeah, once a month. Yeah, once a month.
Yeah. So you can get a couple of chickens. You can pick them up at the farmer's market. You can get them delivered sometimes. Yep. So there's lots of options out there. If you would like to be a guest on the show, you can email me at barb@googlegirl.ca, or you can shoot me a message on Facebook and Instagram. You can definitely submit questions in advance of the live show on our Facebook page, and we will be announcing our guests as we continue to take the show on the road. So it's going to be an exciting summer. Super looking forward to it. Have some really cool guests coming up. Maybe not quite as tasty as Jeff today, but still some very fun people coming up. I am your host, Barb McGrath, local business owner and Google girl. Remember, Jeff, you worked hard for your success. Don't keep it a secret.
All right.
Bye for now.